Welcome to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast, where we celebrate Minnesota's incredible fiction authors and the stories that make our literary scene so vibrant. I'm Rob Jung.
And I'm Michael MacBride. Together, we're the team behind Bell Cow Productions and the Bell Cow Catalog, a digital catalog designed to connect Minnesota authors with readers, libraries, and indie bookstores.
The catalog will be heading to all 377 Minnesota libraries, 80 plus indie bookstores, plus those in border cities such as Sioux Falls, Fargo, Superior, and La Crosse.
And now with this podcast, we get to bring those amazing voices to life. Every episode features one of our herd members talking about their books, their writing journey, and the stories behind the stories.
And before we start, let us apologize for all the cow-related puns you're about to hear.
All right, let's dig in.
Welcome to the Bell Cow Podcast Roundup. Today, we are honored to have with us as our guest author, M.B. Panichi, who writes romance and science fiction, and which is an interesting combination that we will delve in just a little deeper. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was really nice.
Yeah, we're excited to learn a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a bit of your backstory and how you came to writing. I mean, that kind of, whatever that through line is.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I've always written. Since I was a little kid, I started writing. I didn't know it was fan fiction at the time, but you'd get obsessed about, the Bionic Woman or something, you'd start writing stories. So I obsessed about many things, including Babylon 5 and Star Wars and, all that kind of thing. But so that's kind of where I started. And I just did it because that was what I did. And then I met a friend of mine named Jessie Chandler, and she got me into a writing group at the Loft. And that's kind of where it all started. Met a woman named Lori Lake, and they got me to the Golden Crown Literary Society, which is fiction, women, for women, by women, about women. And that's how I ended up getting published with Bella Books. So it kind of very roundabout, not at all planned, but stuff just happens, so I go with it.
It's funny how we have labeled this stuff fan fiction, but I think that's how anybody starts writing, is by emulating the people they enjoy or trying to engage with something, that feels familiar. So,
Yeah.
But it almost now has like a bad rap or something. Like, oh, it's just fan fiction. It's like,
yeah, well, people, I think, and I think it's just because, there's a lot of very beginning writers doing fan fiction, but there's also some really, really incredible writers doing it. So, I think you just do sort of what you grow up seeing and doing. And I was reading all the Star Wars books and all that. So,
So MB, for our listeners and viewers, define for us what is fan fiction, because from my limited perspective, everything is fan fiction. Without them, we wouldn't sell any books.
True. It would be like taking a character from television or a movie or movies or whatnot, and then writing it your way. So I got really upset about Babylon 5 and how they handled one of the storylines. So I took two of the characters, created a new one, and just built my own stories around that because they just it made me angry and I needed to redo it. And same with, Deep Space Nine, I played around with that a little bit and grab one of the characters that you're obsessed with and then write them new stories.
Okay. Science fiction and romance seems like kind of an odd combination.
Yes and no. I mean, science fiction is just a very comfortable place for me. I grew up reading Bradbury, reading all the Star Wars stuff. I mean, we're going back to the 70s here. So, Heinlein, just all that kind of general, all that science fiction and fantasy that you just grew up with. And so that's my comfort spot. But I also really like romance, and I like happy endings. And romance is all about it ends happily ever after. So, and I like things that are fun. So I write science fiction that's kind of adventurous and fun, but with female leads and a little romance on the side.
To me, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're stuck on a spaceship for a long period of time with limited number of people, and at some point, the pool of people you have around you start looking a lot more interesting. So,
Well, or even just, a different world, a different time. My
sure.
my Saving Morgan series with Shane and Morgan, it's takes place on Earth, 2453. So future Earth where they've got the moon more or less populated. They've got, they're working on mining on Mars and things like that. So it just it's just a different space to be in, and you don't have to deal with real life, even though a lot of the things that you talk about are, still reflect what's going on in the real world.
So do you enjoy the world building part of science fiction or the character interactive part?
I think they're kind of one and the same for me. Um, the the world the characters kind of end up defining the world, and but I like creating the worlds and trying to figure out what kind of society or whatever will create that character or that they will live in, and how did it get there. So um
That
it's
makes a lot of sense. Um, I know you had mentioned, I think in one of your bios, that you also play drums in bands. So
yes.
books are not your only creative outlet. I'm just kind of curious, as a fan of music, what kind of music do you perform, and what how does it work being in multiple bands?
They're all kind of part-timey. I have played just about every version of music I can think of, even country and western, both kinds. Um, I started out uh, as a kid with my little J.C. Penney drum set, playing to the Partridge Family records, and just kind of taught myself how to play. High school was all learning Rush albums, sitting in the back of the band room learning Rush albums. And I did a all-female heavy metal band for a while down here when I in the would have been late 90s, early 2000s. And that was a blast. That was heavy metal is fun. But I do a variety band. We do a little bit of everything. Blues, old rock and roll, you name it. I've played in country, I've played show groups, I marched at the U and with Minnesota Brass and in Hibbing High School. So all that kind of thing. I've played polka bands, it's, it's all
Yeah.
So
good.
are you a studio musician, basically on call?
No, no, I'm just a drummer that has a lot of friends that play a lot of different music. I'm
Does
I don't
the
I don't consider myself a musician's musician. I can read music if I have to, but I don't like to. I mostly just play by what I hear.
I was wondering, in the create if you're involved in creating music as well, or if you're playing mostly covers or not. And then when you mentioned Rush, I immediately saw like the crossover of science fiction and music. Like it
Oh
seems like
yeah.
a perfect alignment there.
Oh yes. Oh yes. 2112. Yeah. I've done both. The metal band I was in was called No Man's Land, and we wrote all our own stuff and toured some. It was a lot of fun, and I really, really enjoy that process. I made it a point of not playing the same beat in any song twice. So it was like every song had to be just something had to be different because otherwise you'd get bored. But cover bands are fun too, and the guys I play with let me get away with whatever I want. So
Oh, back to writing books.
back to
I looked at your track record online, and there is a 8-year gap between Choosing Love and Revolution of the Heart. Revolution of the Heart being the most recently released book this
yeah.
year. What happened in that 8 years?
Um, COVID and just a lot of personal crazy that just kept me from being able to really think and concentrate. I think the last thing I did was Blood and Roses, and I think that was that 2019? I don't remember. Um, maybe it was. I thought I did Blood and Roses after I did Choosing Love, but I can't remember. Um, but yeah, it was just there was a lot of flux in life in general, so it just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, you definitely
So
need some kind of stability. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
no, I was going to say, so with this sort of 8 year gap, did you come out this side of that hiatus a different writer?
I don't think so. I think I learned a lot, but I think it's still just me writing. So other than learning some better writing skills and some better editing skills and things like that, it's still, I think, my same voice, or a lot of it.
Cool.
Is
And I didn't look, so I apologize. This is obviously something I could have found online, but is it a series of books that you write? Are they connected in some way, or
Well, yes and no.
other than genre, I guess?
Saving Morgan and Running Towards Home are sequels, or Running Towards Home, the sequel to Saving Morgan, and it's based on the same two characters. And then in the same kind of time frame, same world, Blood and Roses is some new characters to focus on, but Shane and Morgan show up in a sort of as secondary people in there. So same world, same ideas, different focus. And Choosing Love is just completely off the map. It's actually a more or less current modern day romance that takes place up on the Iron Range,
oh,
Minnesota's Iron Range.
okay. And then tell us about Revolution of the Heart. Where does that fit in the?
That's science fiction and romance, but it's a completely different world, um, and completely different characters. So this one takes place on well, between a couple of worlds, but it's based in a place called Tar Agus, which is like a manufacturing mining world where they've pretty much just ruined it all, So acid rain that actually is acid, just barren, rocky, nothing grows there. You can't really go outside without being in a suit, you know. And it's run by a corporate ministry that basically uses indentured workers, which is a little bit better than slaves, but not a whole lot. And so the plot kind of revolves around two gals, Natya, who grew up on Taragas and actually tried to escape once, didn't make it. And then from another world, a human feline hybrid named Charis Landers, who is a freighter pilot. She's a independent freighter pilot, and one of her clan members gets captured by slavers, and he's a younger kid, and she has to go and try to get him, and he ends up being sold on Taragas. So that's how I get the characters together and do escaping and falling in love and all that kind of thing.
So I
Interesting.
know you're working on a couple more books. Are they are they the rollouts from Revolution of the Heart, or are they standalones or
I've
throwbacks
got
to
a
your
Yeah.
series? Or
I've got some Shane and Morgan things that are kind of backburnered, that I kind of wanted to delve into a little bit more. Um, Focusing on Morgan more and her backstory. Um, and I've got kind of a cozy, paranormal mystery kind of romance. And you can blame that one on my friend Jesse Chandler a little bit.
We blame a lot of stuff on Jesse, by the way. So.
And that one's gonna be that one. It's somewhere around halfway through the initial draft, but it just needs to get cleaned up and finished up and stuff. But so I've got irons in the fire. It's just a matter of working full time and getting things.
There is that.
Yes,
Life.
yes. There is life.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're going to read something from your manuscript in progress.
Mhm.
Will you set it up for a bit for us and give us a taste of it?
Sure. This is what I think it should be. Oops, sorry about that. I'm moving that over a little bit. It's the opening scene or the opening chapter at the moment from Revolution of the Heart. And it's takes place on Tara Agus. And this is Natya, who is an indentured servant there. And as you're coming into this, there's these bad guy enforcers, and they're kind of coming to they've locked down the living compounds. So that's where this starts. Attention, lockdown commences in 15 minutes. Lockdown in 15 minutes. Return to your home or work assignment. Violators will be arrested. I flinched at the announcement blaring through the thin walls of our apartment complex. A rush of footsteps clattered down the building hallways. Doors slammed. I held my breath, listening as I sat on my bed in the dark, well past my usual bedtime. I'd been journaling on my data tablet. Lockdown in 14 minutes. You have 14 minutes to return to your home or work assignment. Violators will be arrested. I powered off the tablet with shaking fingers. My heart pounded. Rolling off the bed, I felt blindly for the loose floorboards underneath. I slipped my tablet into its hiding place, tempted to crawl under the bed myself. No, this was not about me. It was just a routine lockdown. Nothing to worry about. I forced myself to take slow breaths. The searchlight in the outer compound swept slowly across the window, shadowy orange light forcing its way through the acid-glazed window pane. I didn't understand the need for searchlights. Nobody would be outside. It's just tactics to create fear, always creating fear. I edged to the bedroom door, opened it, and stepped toward the light in the kitchen and living area of our cramped apartment. The announcement continued its relentless countdown. My older sister stood near the kitchen table watching as I approached in my pajamas. She asked, "Is Tomas working tonight?" My gaze flicked to his open bedroom door in the dark, empty room. "I don't think so." "Well, then he damned well better get his ass here before his time runs out." Fear and memory swirled through my brain. Fear for myself. Fear for my brother. It wouldn't be the first time he'd missed a lockdown curfew. If he was caught. I shivered. Phantom pain spiked through my scarred left hand and arm. I knew what their tortures felt like. Lockdown in 12 minutes. You have 12 minutes to return to your home or work assignment. Violators will be arrested. I shuffled into the living room. Dread twisted my stomach as I sat heavily onto the worn sofa. My chest tightened, breath coming in gasped. My vision grayed. Memories crowded into my head of being locked in a detention cell, lying on my side on a hard cement floor, my ruined left arm wrapped from bicep to fingers in bandages. Excruciating pain. The apartment door opened and snicked shut, and I blinked into the present as Tomas rushed into the apartment, disheveled, sweating, his eyes a little wild. He raced to his room. Yetta hissed at him. "Tomas, what's happening? Where were you?" "Shut up. I'm here. I have been home. We were all sleeping." He came out of his room seconds later in pajama pants, looking like he'd just woken up. My mind screamed. They must be coming for us. With no memory of moving, I found myself cowering in the corner of the living room with my back to the wall, knees to my chin. I cradled my left arm against my chest. The stiffness of grafted skin throbbed. For a few seconds, I felt the agonizing sear of chemicals melting my flesh. Locked down in 8 minutes. You have 8 minutes to return to your home or work assignment. Violators will be arrested. I struggled to focus on Tomas and Yetta arguing in low voices in the kitchen. The apartment door burst open. Black uniformed enforcers barged in, swinging blaster rifles, pushing past the bedroom and bathroom doors. One man trapped Tomas against the kitchen wall with a blaster aimed at his face. Yetta gripped the back of a chair, still as a statue in the sight of another enforcer's rifle. I huddled further into my corner. Don't see me. I'm not here. I am not here. A rifle slapped roughly against my chins. I fought not to react. What the fuck's wrong with her? The enforcer dug his rifle barrel into my shoulder. I couldn't breathe. Look at me! I ducked my head and squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the pain. Let her alone, Yetta shouted. Shut up! I heard the slap and knew Yetta had been hit. He should have hit me. Damn it, don't hit my sisters. Another voice. Let's go. The traitors aren't here. Stupid bitch. The toe of his boot connected, kicking me onto my side before he stomped away. The slamming door left us in heavy silence. Tomas leaned his head against the wall with a heavy thump. Yetta's hand went to her reddened cheek. Her dark eyes focused on Tomas with an accusing glare. He pushed away from the wall. Natya, are you okay? Slowly, my heart rate evened out. I could feel bruises forming. I forced myself to focus and willed my painfully tense muscles to relax. We were still alive, and the enforcers had moved on. Who were they looking for? Yetta demanded. It doesn't matter. Tomas crossed the room and held out a hand to me. I let him pull me to my feet, feeling foolish for shaking in my own living room while my brother and sister seemed mostly unaffected by the armed men threatening our lives. Tomas said, I'm going to bed. I've got an early morning. And just like that, he went to his room. Yetta put on a kettle for tea. I returned to my own bed, lying awake in the darkness, listening to the sounds of boots in the hallway and the klaxons still wailing from the compound's outer towers. The searchlights continued their constant sweeps of the ground, even though there would be nobody outside to stop. Eventually, the klaxons quieted. Sometime after that, I drifted into a fitful, nightmare-ridden sleep.
I know one of my favorite things about, well, really about fantasy or science fiction, either one of them, is even though they're either set in the future or in the past, they often reflect things that are going on, current times as well. And I was curious, like, do you, when you sit down to write a book, like I'm deeply interested in process, right? So like I'm wondering
Okay.
like what that spark is for you with a story like this. Like, is it an idea that's like, oh, I want to see how this kind of pans out? Are you more kind of a pantser where you're like, I have a scene to start with and I want to see where this goes? Like, what is your process like?
I do a little of both. This actually came from a dream I had, and one scene that just stuck in my head of a woman trying to run away in the rain on a very sepia colored planet. And I had it was just kind of vague. I wasn't really sure what was going on. She was in trouble, someone else knew it. And it just sort of snowballed from there. I just started playing with it a little bit and came up with some characters. And then once I kind of thought, okay, this is what I could do. This is a plot that might work. These are some characters that might work. Then I actually go to trying to create some kind of a structure with a plan and an outline, and get into the world building, get into trying to figure out how you can fit it together and fit all the pieces together.
How
So
did this all start? I mean, did you come out of the womb thinking about world building, or where? I'm always curious about people who are whose
I don't,
how includes world building, because I don't have
I,
that kind of imagination.
I came out of the womb making shit up. And I told myself stories all the time. You know, Barbie and Ken and their friends didn't, it was like a soap opera that I played out. So there were always stories, there was always something going on. And I'd watch the TV shows and I would just get so into the characters of the TV shows and I'd want to be them. And so the stories just kind of kept winding up. And so that's just what I did. I have just notebooks full of bits and pieces of things. So,
Wow,
Interesting.
it's always interesting to find where somebody's, the genesis of someone's creativity began.
and reading. Going to the library and getting a stack of books like this and reading all the time. They couldn't get my nose out of a book. So, and I read all the stuff that kids always read, the Three Detectives and, Danny Dunn and the Mad Scientist Club, all that kind of stuff. All the sci-fi I could find in the kids section, just everything. So there's just a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And like,
So usually towards the end we move into like this kind of lightning round, rapid fire, whatever character revealing thing. I'm curious. I mean, you've alluded to books you've read, but if you had to pick like one book or one author from your past that was inspirational, that's like, the pillar that you're built on, is there? Could you pick one, and who would that be?
Oh boy, it's changed so much over the year. Alan Dean Foster. When I was very young, I read everything he did, and I loved his worlds. I loved what he did. Um, what's the trying to think of her name? Marion. Uh, she had a whole series about a world called Darkover. I can't remember what her name was. But there was just a ton of series. Joe Clayton was another one. She had a whole big series, and these are books I read over and over and over and over. And anything Star Wars I read over and over and over and over.
Looks like Marion Zimmer Bradley.
That's it.
Okay,
Yes.
I had to
Yes.
look it up. I was unfamiliar,
Yeah,
but when you said that, I was like, I can find this.
it's been a long time. But yeah, and now I mean I read so many different authors and there's so many phenomenal writers out there that it's hard to just to pick one
Sure.
particularly.
okay. So a night on the town or curled up by the fireplace?
Oh, curled up by the fireplace with lots of dogs. We have
Um,
Shih Tzu at my house.
okay. That sounds like plural.
Oh, yes, it is. We have several. They're very fun. They're very happy to curl up and be read to and, keep your lap warm.
There you go. Three dog night.
Oh, at least, yes.
All right.
Well, if you're curled up on the couch, is there a particular meal you like making or something that you're known for cooking at your house?
I'm not much of a cook, but I like pastas of any kind. And that I'm a very flexible eater for the most part.
Like that's a great descriptive term.
But I need my coffee. I have to have my coffee though.
So who would you, if you could, with your cup of coffee in the morning, who would you invite over, a living or dead, to have coffee with?
Well, I always wanted to meet Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, because I think he was a phenomenally intelligent guy, and I would love to actually just get to chat with him. And Stephanie Miller from her radio show, on Sirius XM because she is a funny lady, and I listen to her every single morning with my coffee while I'm working.
So in a sense, you do have coffee with her every morning.
In a sense, yes. She doesn't know about it, but yes.
Right.
It's funny. I remember being shocked when I learned, I think Rush was the first band I learned about where the lead singer didn't necessarily write the songs. And I remember going like, what? Like I just assumed part of being the lead singer was also being the songwriter. And it blew my mind that somebody would be able to emote in such a way as if this was authentically their creation or whatever. And
Mhm.
obviously other people do this as well. It just that was for whatever reason the band that I learned about that with. So, but
Yeah,
it's funny.
it's yeah, it was all just. I mean, they were always just amazing to me. So, yeah, he and Neil wrote such cool lyrics, so
Yeah.
he made it all right.
So I'm curious, thinking childhood, and you mentioned in your bio that you grew up around the Iron Range, and you mentioned a
Mhm.
book that is featuring in the Iron or the Iron Range is featuring it, and then there's also
Mhm.
this mining planet as well. And so I'm wondering, what do you think about growing up in that area that was important or stuck with you that maybe made you the writer that you are today?
Hmm. I mean, I think my mom read all the time. So I think I got a lot of my reading habits from my mom. And she used to read those vocabulary books and stuff and quiz you on, vocabulary and spelling and things like that. So, and she had a friend who was an English teacher. And we used to get to go to Roy's house during the summer. And I used to bring in my notebooks. It's like, will you read this for me? Will you read this for me? And so it just, it was just always a thing, the writing and the reading. And it had less to do with being on the Iron Range, but I suppose being in a small town didn't hurt either. And it
Sure.
made me want to leave. So so I came down here for college and I never went back.
Gotcha.
So if you could travel intergalactically, where would you go visit?
Well, heck, intergalactically, you say?
Yeah,
I like
Oh,
that twist on the question. That's a good one.
I want to Queen, but where would you go?
I'd want I'd want to be able to see like cool things like nebulas and stuff like that. Maybe go on a space cruise. That'd be kind of
Okay.
fun.
I like it. Just kind of around the
Yeah,
galaxy and see what there is.
just yeah, yeah. To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Michael, do you have any more of those sort of lightning round questions?
Well, sometimes we ask this question, which is, what color would the sky be if it wasn't blue? But now you're in a place where you talk about sepia-toned worlds and that kind of thing, and I'm wondering, like, is there, what would you see in a sky that you think would be really stunning, or an alternative to the color blue?
I think like violet, kind of a pink violet would be really neat
Yeah,
because I like those colors.
that'd be pretty.
Kind of like the Northern Lights the other night. It's really
Mm.
wild.
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I noticed, Michael, that you posted it on your Facebook page, so we can see it night after night, or at least until Facebook takes it down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I know people obviously you can see them better through cameras and whatever, and it picks up more stuff. But to me, like
Mhm.
just being able to walk and like visually see it is just
It
incredible.
was amazing.
I can only imagine what people must have thought before they had an understanding of what was going on. Like that must
Yeah,
have just been like, what just happened?
yeah, exactly. I think it would have been very frightening.
For sure.
interesting. I think of the Incan Empire and their knowledge of astrology in the skies,
Mhm.
and when a eclipse came or when the aurora borealis, of course, it may not have gotten that far south in the southern hemisphere, but how that impacted their thought processes about what they knew relative to the
Yeah.
stars.
How do you explain the inexplicable?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do for a living.
More or less.
Yeah. Well, on that note, actually, I guess the last question I'll ask MB is favorite bookstores in the area or any place people can find your books. We'll be sure to include links in the description below, but I didn't know if you wanted to put a plug in for a bookstore that you particularly enjoy or someone who supported you.
Well, Bella Books is my publisher, so bellabooks.com is a great place to get them.
Okay.
Not sure where they are around. Sometimes Once Upon a Crime will have them if we're doing something over there, but
Sure.
yeah. I have not been very good at marketing myself, unfortunately, but
Well, hopefully we can help you with it.
Yeah.
hopefully.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful.
Great. Thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
What were you saying, Rob?
I said, come and buy MB's books. I mean, that's the whole purpose here between the Bird podcast and the Bell Cow catalog. We hope
For sure.
to hope we can help you with that marketing arm.
That would be grand.
Well, thanks for being on. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
And don't forget, you can see this book and more from Minnesota authors in the Bell Cow catalog, heading to libraries and indie bookstores across Minnesota and beyond.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bell Cow Author Roundup podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday with another amazing Minnesota author.